Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something. Every morning when you wake up, you are given a brand new gift. God gave you another shot, another chance, another 24 hours to go after your dreams. But here's the thing. You can't just roll out of bed, drag yourself through the day and expect something great to happen. What you speak over your life first thing in the morning shapes how your entire day goes. That's why I want to share with you 14 powerful things you should tell yourself every single morning. Ladies and gentlemen, one of the most powerful things you can ever tell yourself every morning is, thank you. I'm talking about gratitude. Gratitude is the foundation that shapes the rest of your day. See, most people wake up and the first thing they do is complain. They think about how tired they are, how much they hate their job, how little money they have in the bank, or how unfair life has been. They grab their phone before they even get out of bed and scroll through social media, comparing themselves to people they don't even know. But let me tell you, the energy you start your morning with sets the tone for everything that follows. If the first thing out of your mouth is negativity, don't expect blessings to flow into that kind of environment. When you wake up and say thank you, you're acknowledging the gift of life. You didn't have to wake up. Somebody went to bed last night with plans for today, with dreams, with appointments, with goals, but they didn't open their eyes this morning. And here you are, still breathing, still standing, still giving another chance. That alone should make you thankful. Sometimes we forget how big of a blessing it is just to be alive. We take it for granted because we think waking up is automatic. But it's not automatic, it's intentional. And when you recognize that, it changes how you see the world. Gratitude is not just about the big things. Everybody can say thank you when they get a promotion, when they win the lottery, or when life is smooth. But gratitude is powerful when you can say thank you for the small things. Thank you for the air I'm breathing. Thank you for my family. Thank you for the opportunity to try again. Thank you for the lessons in my struggle. Gratitude shifts your focus from what's missing to what's present. And when you shift your focus, your energy changes. When your energy changes, your actions change. And when your actions change, your results change. It all starts with 2 words. Thank you. See, gratitude is a magnet. The more grateful you are, the more reasons you'll be given to be grateful. That's not just positive thinking. That's spiritual law. God responds to gratitude. When he sees you thankful for what you have, he'll trust you with more. But when you're constantly complaining, constantly negative, constantly overlooking your blessings, why would more blessings be poured into your life? You haven't even appreciated the ones you already have. That's why some people stay stuck. They're too focused on lack. They keep saying, I don't have enough, I need more. Why me? But gratitude says, I may not have everything I want yet, but I'm thankful for what I do have, and I believe more is coming. That attitude of gratitude creates room for growth. When I tell you to wake up every morning with gratitude, I'm not telling you something I read in a book. I'm telling you something I live by. There were seasons in my life when I had nothing. I was living out of my car, broke, hungry, unsure of my future. I could have woken up every day bitter, angry, and defeated. And believe me, the temptation was there. But instead, I chose gratitude. I would thank God for another chance, thank him for breath in my lungs, thank him that my story wasn't over yet. That gratitude gave me strength. That gratitude gave me hope, and that gratitude attracted opportunities that eventually changed my life. Every morning, before you grab your phone, before you check your messages, before you think about your problems, I want you to stop and say thank you. Say it out loud. Thank you for this new day. Thank you for health. Thank you for strength. Thank you for another chance to try again. When you start your day with that mindset, watch how your outlook shifts. Watch how people respond to you differently. Watch how doors start opening. Gratitude puts you in position to receive more. Some of you are waiting for life to be perfect before you practice gratitude, but life will never be perfect. There will always be problems. There will always be challenges. But gratitude says, even in the storm, I'm thankful. Even in the struggle, I see blessings. That kind of perspective makes you unstoppable because no matter what life throws at you, you still find a reason to smile, to believe, and to keep going. Gratitude keeps your spirit alive when circumstances try to break you. Gratitude reminds you that your story is bigger than your struggles. Ladies and gentlemen, one of the greatest truths you can ever speak to yourself every morning is this: I am enough. Now let me tell you something. Life has a way of making you feel like you're not. From the moment you're a child, people start putting labels on you, comparing you, ranking you, telling you who you are and who you're not. You grow up being measured against other people's standards, other people's achievements, other people's timelines, and somewhere along the way you start believing the lie that you're not good enough, not smart enough, not talented enough, not connected enough. But when you wake up and look yourself in the mirror and boldly declare, I am enough, you take back the power that life and people have tried to strip away from you. You see, most people spend their lives chasing validation. They're waiting for someone to tell them they're beautiful, someone to tell them they're worthy, someone to tell them they're doing a good job. But here's the problem with living for validation. If someone has to give it to you, then someone can take it away. If your worth is based on other people's opinions, then you'll never be free. That's why you have to wake up and declare for yourself, I am enough just as I am. Not when I get the promotion, not when I lose the weight, not when I buy the house, not when the world finally sees my value. I am enough today with all my flaws, all my imperfections, all my mistakes, all my scars. Now, don't get me wrong. Declaring that you are enough doesn't mean you stop growing. It doesn't mean you stop striving. It doesn't mean you settle for less than what you're capable of. What it means is that even as you grow, even as you learn, even as you improve, your worth is not in question. Too many people live like they're in a waiting room, think they have to achieve something great before they can be enough. But your worth is not attached to your bank account. Your worth is not attached to your resume. Your worth is not attached to your past. You are enough because God put something in you that nobody else has. And no amount of failure, rejection, or delay can erase it. When you tell yourself, I am enough, you silence the inner critic. We all have that voice inside our heads that whispers doubt, that replays failures, that highlights every shortcoming. That voice can be loud, especially in the morning. But when you declare, I am enough, you drown out that negativity. You remind yourself that your mistakes are lessons, not life sentences. You remind yourself that your past does not define your future. You remind yourself that you don't need to be perfect to be powerful. Think about how many opportunities people miss because they don't believe they're enough. They don't apply for the job because they don't think they're qualified. They don't chase the dream because they don't think they have what it takes. They don't speak up because they're scared they're not good enough to be heard. But the truth is, the people who make it aren't always the most talented, the most connected, or the most qualified. They're the ones who dared to believe they were enough and acted on it. Confidence opens doors that doubt will keep locked. When I look back at my own life, I can tell you there were plenty of times I didn't feel like I was enough. When I was broke, sleeping in my car, trying to figure out how to keep going, every voice around me and inside me was saying I wasn't enough. But every morning I had to remind myself that God didn't make a mistake when he made me. That seed of greatness, it was still in me, even if nobody could see it yet. And the moment I started believing I was enough, I carried myself differently. I walked into opportunities differently. I spoke differently. And because I believed it, other people started to believe it too. Ladies and gentlemen, when you start your day by saying, I am enough, you are declaring war on every lie that's ever been spoken over your life. You are declaring that no amount of rejection, no amount of comparison, no amount of criticism will shake your identity. You are affirming that who you are is already valuable, already worthy, already capable of greatness. Ladies and gentlemen, one of the most powerful declarations you can make every single morning is, I have a purpose. Because let me tell you, if you don't wake up with purpose, you'll drift through life like a ship with no compass. You'll find yourself just existing instead of living, just clocking in and clocking out, just going through the motions without ever touching the reason why you were created. Every single one of us was put here for something bigger than ourselves, something unique, something that only we can do. And when you wake up and affirm, I have a purpose, you reminding yourself that you are not an accident, you are not random, and you are not here by coincidence. See, too many people think purpose is something only special people have. They believe it belongs to celebrities, leaders, or people with fame and fortune. But purpose has nothing to do with status. Purpose is built into your DNA. It was stitched into you before you were born. That's why when you settle for living small, something inside you feels restless. That's why even when you try to convince yourself you're okay with average, there's still a voice pulling at you saying, there's more. That's purpose talking. And you can try to ignore it, but it won't go away because it's part of who you are. When you wake up and declare, I have a purpose, you give meaning to your struggle. Because let's be honest, life is going to throw obstacles your way. There will be setbacks, disappointments, failures, and pain. But when you know you have a purpose, you stop seeing those struggles as punishment and start seeing them as preparation. Every challenge you face is shaping you, strengthening you, teaching you something you need for where you're going. Purpose takes the weight of your pain and turns it into power. Without purpose, you'll think life is just unfair. With purpose, you'll realize every single thing you've been through is working for something greater. Purpose doesn't always come in a loud voice or a clear roadmap. Sometimes it shows up in small whispers, in talents you overlook, in passions you bury, in opportunities you hesitate to take. That's why you have to remind yourself daily that you have one, even if you don't see the full picture yet. You might not know every detail, but you don't have to. Knowing that you have a purpose is enough to give your day direction. It's enough to remind you that your actions matter, that your voice matters, that your presence matters. I remember when I was at my lowest, when I was broke, when I was living out of my car, when I felt like nothing was going right. The only thing that kept me from giving up was the belief that I still had a purpose. I didn't know how it was going to unfold. I didn't know how long it would take, but I knew deep down that God didn't put me here just to suffer. That belief gave me the courage to keep getting up, to keep chasing, to keep fighting. And eventually, that purpose showed up in ways I never imagined. The danger of living without purpose is that you start letting life happen to you instead of making life happen through you. You settle into routines that don't fulfill you. You stay in jobs that drain you. You stay around people who don't grow you. And you convince yourself that's all there is. But when you wake up and say, I have a purpose, you break that cycle. You start walking differently, talking differently, carrying yourself differently. You make decisions based on destiny, not desperation. And when you operate with that kind of clarity, opportunities start to align with you. Purpose doesn't just give you drive, it gives you resilience. Because let's be honest, it's easy to keep going when everything is good. But when doors slam in your face, when people doubt you, when the money doesn't show up, when you feel like you're at the end, that's when purpose kicks in. That's when that reminder you gave yourself in the morning, I have a purpose, becomes fuel to keep moving. It tells you this storm is not the end of me. This pain is not the definition of me. This failure is not the conclusion of me. It says my purpose is bigger than what I'm facing right now. Every single morning, you need to start your day with this truth, because the world will try to distract you. It will try to convince you that your value is in your paycheck, your followers, your title, or your possessions. But none of those things define you. Purpose is what defines you. And when you walk in that, you don't just live life, you impact life. You don't just exist, you leave a legacy. And it all begins with you looking in the mirror and reminding yourself, I have a purpose. Ladies and gentlemen, one of the most life-changing declarations you can make in the morning is, I will not let fear control me today. Because let's be real, fear is one of the greatest enemies of success. Fear whispers to you before you even take your first step out of bed. Fear tells you you're not ready. Fear tells you you'll fail. Fear tells you people will laugh at you. Fear tells you to stay comfortable. Fear tells you to wait. And if you don't confront it, fear will paralyze you. Fear will keep you in the same place year after year, watching other people live their dreams while you sit on the sidelines. See, here's the truth. Everybody feels fear. Fear is natural. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is moving anyway. Fear will always show up when you're about to do something that matters, because the enemy of growth is comfort. And fear wants to keep you comfortable, stuck in routines, stuck in patterns, stuck in mediocrity. But when you declare every morning, I will not let fear control me today, you're putting fear in its place. You're saying it may ride with me, but it will not drive. Most people don't realize how much fear runs their lives. They're afraid of rejection, so they never ask. They're afraid of failure, so they never try. They're afraid of judgment, so they never speak. They're afraid of the unknown, so they never move. And then they sit back and wonder why their life looks the same year after year. It's not because they're not capable. It's not because they're not gifted. It's because they let fear hold the steering wheel. And as long as fear is driving, you're never going to reach your destination. When you wake up and tell yourself, I will not let fear control me today, you start shifting your perspective. You start realizing that fear is nothing more than a lie. It's your mind projecting the worst possible outcome, most of which will never happen. Fear is imagination working against you. But the same way you can imagine failure, you can imagine success. The same way you can picture things falling apart, you can picture them coming together. And that simple shift in what you choose to believe makes all the difference. I know this firsthand. There were so many times in my life when fear tried to stop me. When I first stepped on stage to do comedy, fear was right there. Fear told me I wasn't funny enough, that I would embarrass myself, that I should quit before I even began. And I'll be honest with you, I was scared. But I did it anyway, and that decision changed my life. If I had let fear control me, I wouldn't be standing here today. Every blessing I've ever received, every opportunity that ever came my way was on the other side of fear. That's the truth for all of us. Fear stands between you and the life you're supposed to live. The trick is not trying to eliminate fear completely. That's impossible. The trick is learning to act in spite of it. When fear shows up, acknowledge it, but don't bow down to it. When that voice tells you you're not ready, tell yourself, I will not let fear control me today. When that doubt creeps in before you make the call, before you apply for the job, before you launch the business, before you take the leap, remind yourself, I will not let fear control me today. Every time you push past it, you get stronger. Every time you move anyway, fear loses a little more power over you. Fear will always exaggerate the risk and minimize the reward. It will tell you it's too dangerous, too risky, too uncertain. But you know what's really dangerous? Living your whole life trapped by fear, never knowing what could have been. The risk of staying the same is far greater than the risk of failing. Failure you can learn from, but regret you can escape. And if you don't learn to declare victory over fear daily, you'll end up with a life full of regret. That's why this declaration is so important. You can't just hope fear goes away. You have to confront it. You have to wake up and decide that today, fear does not get to control your choices, your words, your moves. Today you step out anyway. Today you choose courage. Today you act in faith, not fear. Because faith and fear can't operate in the same space. One has to win, and every morning it's up to you to decide which one is going to be. Ladies and gentlemen, when you wake up in the morning, one of the strongest declarations you can make over your life is, I am built for success. Because let me tell you something, success is not about luck. It's not about being born into the right family. It's not about who you know or who you don't know. Success is about believing that you already have within you the tools, the strength, the resilience, and the ability to win. Too many people wake up doubting themselves. They look at their past, they look at their mistakes, they look at where they come from, and they convince themselves they don't have what it takes. But I'm here to tell you, if you woke up this morning, if you still breathing, if you still got life in your body, then you are already equipped with everything you need to get to where you're supposed to go. I want you to understand this clearly. You were not made to live in defeat. You were not made to settle for average. You were not made to just get by. You were built for greatness, designed with intention, and put here with gifts that only you possess. But the problem is most people never activate what's already inside of them. They spend their lives waiting for the perfect moment, waiting for the perfect opportunity, waiting until they feel ready. And while they wait, life passes them by. But when you start your day with the declaration, I am built for success, you're reminding yourself that you don't have to wait for external approval. You don't have to wait for someone else to hand you permission. You already have the capacity to succeed because it's in your design. Think about it. Look at all the challenges you've already survived. Look at the storms you thought would break you, but didn't. Look at the problems that should have taken you out, but instead made you stronger. If you can look back at your life and see moments where you didn't think you'd make it, but somehow you did, that is proof that you are built for success. That is evidence that there is something inside of you that refuses to quit, something that knows how to rise when everything around you is trying to push you down. The truth is, success starts in the mind. If you don't believe you're built for it, you'll never see it. That's why so many people settle for less than they deserve. They don't think they're capable of more, so they don't even try. But when you begin to affirm, I am built for success, you start reprogramming the way you see yourself. You start walking differently. You carry yourself with confidence. You show up with determination. And that energy attracts opportunities because success recognizes success. I've lived this. I remember times when everything in my life said failure. My bank account said failure. My circumstances said failure. My environment said failure. But deep down, I kept telling myself I was built for more. Even when I was living in my car, even when people doubted me, even when doors were closing, I kept affirming to myself that I was built for success. And because I believed it, I kept moving forward. That belief gave me the courage to step into opportunities that changed everything for me. If I had listened to what my circumstances were saying instead of what I was saying to myself, I would still be stuck. Let me tell you something. Life will test you. It will throw setbacks, failures, and disappointments your way. But success is not about avoiding failure. It's about refusing to let failure define you. If you're built for success, then failure is just a lesson, a stepping stone, a part of the process. Every successful person you admire has failed more times than they've succeeded. The difference is they never stop believing they were built for it. They use the failures as fuel instead of letting them become final. Every morning when you look in the mirror and declare, I am built for success, you're setting the tone for how you'll handle the day. You're reminding yourself that no matter what challenges come, no matter what doubts creep in, no matter what obstacles stand in the way, you have the strength, the resilience, and the faith to push through. You're reminding yourself that you were not made to live in fear. You were not made to live in lack. You were not made to give up halfway. You were made to win, to rise, to thrive, and to succeed. All right, ladies and gentlemen, one of the most powerful declarations you can make over your life every morning is, today I choose joy. Because let's be honest, life is not always easy. Life will throw challenges at you that you didn't see coming. Bills pile up. Relationships get complicated. Jobs don't always go the way you want. Your health might not always be perfect. And dreams don't always happen on your timeline. But here's what I know. Happiness is based on conditions, but joy is a decision. Happiness waits on circumstances to be right. Joy is something you choose in spite of circumstances. When you wake up and say, today I choose joy, you are taking back authority over your day. You are refusing to let problems, people, or pressure dictate your peace. See, the mistake most people make is thinking joy is something they'll feel once everything is perfect. They say, I'll be happy when I get the promotion. I'll be happy when I make more money. I'll be happy when I find the right person. I'll be happy when life finally smooths out. But the problem with that is life will never be perfect. If you're waiting for conditions to be flawless before you experience joy, you'll be waiting forever. Joy